Okay, I want to welcome everyone to the third of 6 days, which is our also our 9th annual high performance camp. Not in Brooksville this year, but we have Ralph Lynn-Shilton on and a special guest that's not too far from Brooksville. I'll pass it off to Ralph.
Thank you. So good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to everyone all over the world. So today we have guests like I see from UK and from America. So I don't see any other country at this moment, but who knows? So Chris, welcome. I'm very happy that you be a part of our camp and that you take the time to be here and to maybe give us some information about your life, about yourself, and about handbike.
Okay, well, it's easy because it's a shorter drive than Brooksville just to go to my computer where the camp was before. So, yeah, so what do you want to know? Tell me. Ask me some questions.
Okay, I will ask you very different things.
Okay.
So I've thought about, I will divide our session into 3 smaller parts.
Okay.
So the first part will be something about your sportive life, because you always be in a handbike, but I have no idea about your last 20, 30 years as a sportive athlete. So maybe you can give us a view about this. The second part will be about your business, or what different parts you have done in your life as in handbike production and something like this.
Okay.
And last part, I like to hear from you about new stuff. So how handbikes should be in the future, or racing chairs, how you think the development will be in the future. So these are the 3 different parts I hope we can talk about.
Okay, that's a good one. What was the first one?
So the first one is to talk about your sportive life.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, I mean, from a long time ago, I was always athletic. Not the best at any super, but I was athletic, played sports in school. When I was young, I played soccer, played baseball, basketball. I cycled, but just because everybody had bicycles. And then kind of coincided with me moving to Florida to get to move to a place that made racing wheelchairs, that I started cycling more, because I started riding my bike with George Murray, my founding partner. So I would ride a bike with him when he was training, and I would ride along in marathons if I was allowed to, or sneak on the course, kind of things like that. And then being in Florida, it's a big cycling community here. And I was looking to do something just for exercise. I wasn't going to play basketball or baseball anymore. So I started cycling more and more, and I raced quite a bit. And this is when we started Top End in 1986. I was riding a lot. I raced a fair amount for a couple of years. I even made my own bicycles in time trial bike. I made a few. I sold some. At the same time, we were making racing wheelchairs and basketball wheelchairs, and hand cycles were not quite happening at the moment, but things were moving fast. And so my business grew, and I guess my cycling career didn't, because I started working more. And so kind of.
It's a volume button.
Huh?
You hear what thumb is?
Yeah.
If you push it.
Okay, sorry.
And yeah, so my cycling was going downhill a little bit just because not enough time to train and whatever. And so I did local stuff, but it kind of started going down. But then I was, at the same time still riding. And, and then through the 90s, that's when the hand cycles for me really started taking off. We started, I think in 90, I have a picture of the first hand cycle I made. Actually, let me go get it because I was just looking at it the other day. Pretty funny.
So for everyone still during the time we are waiting for today's session, you have to do some workouts with low cadence stuff. For everyone who is doing this low cadence stuff the first time, use maybe not the lowest number for the cadence. So start easily with maybe 65 to 75 RPMs and not with the 55 RPMs. So do it very easily at the beginning, and then maybe during the workout slow down with the cadence. So Chris, you are back.
Yes. So anyway, I started making hand cycles, I think in 90 or 89. And this was the first one. Okay. So you can see how they were. And, there was other people making them a little bit. Freedom Rider was a company in the United States that made one that you actually leaned to steer. But there was a couple people starting. And, but anyway, so we started making hand cycles along with racing chairs and other chairs. And so I liked the hand cycling because it was like cycling to me. And so, yeah, I just, I kept riding and always was around people that were exercising, whether it was racing wheelchairs or basketball wheelchairs or hand cycling. So it was kind of easy for me, to keep doing something in sport, which I liked. Mm-hmm. And then the bikes, just kind of kept evolving. And then I think around 2002 or one, I went, I think, to the first World Championships that they had in Europe, and they were in Germany or Switzerland. I can't remember. It was Neuchâtel, I think, in Switzerland. And we also did Rotterdam at the same time. And I went with this small US team. And I was just like the sort of a coach with Ian Lawless. And yeah, we went there. And then I started going to some other events because business was growing and the bikes were really moving fast. Schmecking was making bikes that were cool, other companies. So it was like you went to a race and you had your new bike, and then there was like, oh, you need to make a better bike. It's the position's changing, people are sitting lower, et cetera, et cetera. So we, yeah, I just kept going. And then when you saw me in the hand cycle, I can't remember when I first, it was in the early 2000s because I went to Europe and there was a guy named Kees van Breukelen who's been a classifier, and I've known him in the 90s because he actually worked with our company for a little while. And then, so he was hand cycle racing and I'm watching the race and I'm like, well, I can do that. I'm like, so I went home and made a bike. And then I started training with some guys around here in Florida or in the bike groups, the same bike groups. I would ride in the back and, get faster. And yeah, so then I went and raced, and it was much more fun than standing around all day watching races when you can be right in there and see the action and actually try, test the product too, see, yeah. Break something or this doesn't work. And, I know I'm able-bodied, so it doesn't always translate over, but in the kneeling bike, it pretty much does. And then I switched to riding the recumbent because that's when I started carbon bike. That was in like 2015, and we didn't have a kneeler anymore because the kneelers were all from top end. So anyway, so that's why then I rode the kneeler, and then I rode the recumbent, and then a couple of years later after Rio, carbon bike got a kneeler. So then I switched back to the kneeler because I preferred it. And yeah, and that's it. And then last year I hurt my back. So the last time I did a race was the Swamp Classic last year, and I guess that little TT in Brooksville. And then I didn't ride the hand cycle again. I started riding my bicycle again, and then I had back surgery in September. And that's gone pretty well, actually. And now I've been I rode my bike pretty much all year. I took some time off with my back surgery, and now I'm riding pretty much every day.
Okay.
About 300K a week.
Okay.
So anyway, that's my sports thing. So.
May I ask you how old you are?
60.
60, really? You're looking maybe 10 years younger?
It's all that good living, you know.
So you told you have been in Europe for hand cycling racing at the beginning of the 2000s. What do you think changed since then? So it's 20 years, close to 20 years now. And when you're looking back, what is the biggest change since then?
Well, in the beginning, when I started going and I did compete, in a fair amount of races over there. We all raced together, and the categories were kind of all mixed. It was all mixed classes. So, I mean, I raced in Rosenau with Errol Marklin in the race, and Joel Junot, who was world champion. We all raced together. And some guys were riding kneelers, some guys were on recumbents, some guys were on bikes that were in between, sitting up straight with their legs out, because everybody was trying everything. And then, it just kind of started settling, and we all did it. To a point, the racing was going to either be recumbent, laying down on your back pretty flat, or on a kneeling bike. So that pretty much defined the two hand cycling products now, the way I see it. The one in the middle where you sit up straight with your legs out, that's a recreation bike. And that they still sell those because people like them. They can see good, they can't ride the kneeler. It's an in-between bike, but there's no place for it in racing right now, and I don't think there will be. So I think that was a big change, because then everybody was really working on, we need to be lower, more aerodynamic, get the cranks in the right position, make sure the bike doesn't break. People want it lighter, it's like a combination of many things. And then, the wheel sizes have, kind of evolved. We had that big battle, which started, I don't know, 10 years ago or more, where people were arguing about the wheel size, and all the Europeans, I was kind of resistant to it. They really wanted the small wheels. And we were in Baie-Comeau, Canada at the World Championships, and I was in a meeting with a few guys and with UCI, and everybody was just all over the place. And they all had their opinions, and mostly good ones, but they didn't, there was not much progress there. And and then it just kept going, and then people tried the big wheels. So that's still evolving. I think that's going to be defined shortly, with the rules more. And that's, if people want to know why UCI wants to make rules, or IPC, it's because they want the bike somewhat standardized in a way, just so they all look alike, they all work the same, and it's not so much about the bike, it's about the person, and the athlete. It's just like cycling, able-bodied cycling, the Tour de France even, they had, in the time trials, they would use bikes with 24-inch front wheels and 700C back wheels sometimes. You know, when they did the team trial, because it was better for drafting, they get closer together. And then they would use different wheels for this. So they pretty much had enough of that. And they were like, everybody use 700C wheels. And that's what they decided with cycling. And that's the way it is. And that's kind of the way they see it. They want some rules, you know, and then, yeah. But that's, I think, but the biggest change was going back that I think was switching to the recumbent style position for most everybody that's on the screen right now. You know, there's a few. So, and then of course, when we get into materials and other smaller details, but I think that's the biggest one back then.
But if I'm looking back to the beginning of hand cycling, so a little bit later than you come into the sport, and the biggest change in my eyes is the amount of athletes.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
So if I'm looking to the beginning, it have been maybe 30 athletes in total. And now we have competitions with, in one class, 30, 40, 50 athletes. And it's more like, I don't know how you see this things, but I think it's more, it's the competition is getting harder and harder between the athletes. So at the beginning, it was for sure a competition between the athletes, but now everyone is more, on the one side, professional, but it's a little bit more a fight than earlier.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely much more competitive. Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the training has gotten way more serious. Yeah, I mean, that's even the same with racing wheelchairs too. It's, yeah, I remember there was, well, you know, it's funny. Europe had big races. Honestly, when I first went, they were pretty big. Like in Holland, which is cycling country. You know, I went to Rotterdam so long ago. I don't know what year it was, and there was a pretty lot of hand cycles. It was kind of weird to ride with that many people. So, but it has just built. Yeah, and I love going to a hand cycle race when they have like 30 people in each category. You know, I like the World Cups. For that reason, you have the huge fields. The Paralympics kind of gets drained down to like 8 people in a, you know, group or something, because you have to qualify to get there. But yeah, it's amazing. And people like hand cycling. It's one of the reasons they do it. You know, it's easier to ride. It's easier than a racing chair. You know, you don't need a basketball court to ride your bike, just like able-bodied bikes. And so it grows. I mean, there's so many bicycles in the world. You know, the percentage-wise, you know, there's almost a bicycle in every garage, I'm sure, here. You know, so it just makes sense that hand cycling would grow once the bikes got made. And now there's so many bikes. It's amazing. You know, whether off-road or motorized or, yeah, it's amazing the amount of hand cycles that have been made, which is really awesome.
Yeah. And do you think this is, we are coming to the end of the growing fields, or there's still a big chance that we have bigger fields for the World Cups, or maybe different kind of races in Europe and USA?
Yeah, that's a good question. Sometimes I've said this to other people. You know, when I first got into it, there was no, UCI was not really involved in hand cycling. Well, it was before Beijing in 2008, because that was the first time it was in, no, it was in 2004, it was in Greece.
Yes.
They had the Paralympics. It was there, I remember, but it was a very small field. And it was mixed groups, and they did a factor thing in the time trials, I think. And then UCI got involved in it around when we were in Bordeaux at the World Championships. And anyway, they came in, and before EHC was huge. And I went to so many EHC races and there would be 100 people at every race, you know, and then I don't know if it's good or bad, but anyway, UCI got involved in it. And then now everybody's hung up on going to World Cups because they have to make the Paralympics and the World Championships. So then they don't go to the other races. So to me, it would be nice if the smaller races and the countries would try to build up their own small races again, you know, and keep that going too. And I think the United States, we are weak in that department. Actually, in Europe, you can go to a lot of races. I've been to a lot of them, and, and they can drive. They can go from one country to another, you know, in 5 or 8 hours or 2 hours. And, you know, you go to one race on Saturday, go to another race on a Sunday, and they're pretty involved. So I would like to see that happen more, or, you know,
Yeah.
it'd be nice to get it bigger.
Yeah, I see in Germany the problem. So at the beginning in 2005, 2008, we had a few athletes which were very active in promoting. So we talked about Errol, Thorsten Puschke, Stefan Lange, and some others. And we have been involved in the marathons.
Right.
Yeah, and so we had every weekend a big field of athletes, different classes, so levels, good levels, small levels, faster one, bad ones. And after we got split it off from them, we have a decreasing amount of good athletes in Germany. And for sure, this is a reason of the UCI, and hand cycling should be more cycling and not for the runners. And it's difficult to say what is the best way, but I think we need small races for more people.
Yeah, well, the marathons is a very tricky subject, that's for sure. That's been a battle here in the United States forever. I mean, and even before I started, I don't know, maybe 5 years or 10 years before, I'm getting wheelchairs into the New York and Boston Marathon, which at the time were pretty much the biggest marathons in the world, and they still are two of the biggest. You know, that was like people were getting taken off the course in their wheelchair. You know, you couldn't compete, and finally getting them in the event and making official divisions was a pretty big thing. And so now, you know, the wheelchair races grew pretty big, and there was no hand cycling at the time. So the wheelchair races were very big.
Yeah.
And then the hand cycling came through, and then people wanted to, you know, I want to do the marathon in my hand cycle because I don't have a wheelchair, a racing wheelchair, or I'm not good at it, or I can't do it. So that battle is still ongoing because it is a wheelchair race. You know, I always said, you know, when you can't walk, you use a wheelchair, right?
Yeah.
And if you can't run, you race in a racing wheelchair. You don't say, I want to do it on something else. That's, to me, that's the simple way to look at it. But a lot of people say, well, I can't do a racing chair. Well, I can't run a marathon either. You know, so I don't, you know, so, but that's a dangerous subject.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was loaded all over the place. And so, but I would be nice to get some races that accept them, but some don't. You know, that's the thing. Like we had the marathon in Florida, the Melbourne Marathon, and we did the hand cycle race there, and I did it there, I don't know, 5 years, maybe more. And we would get in, you know, we'd get 80 people. You know, people want to do a marathon length. They like the idea. They like the timing. Oh, I did a marathon. Rings a bell in your head, you know. And but anyway, it kind of became an issue a little bit with the runners because hand cycles can go pretty damn fast. faster than racing chairs. And so it starts to create issues
Yeah, absolutely.
with course management, that course management, they're not ready for people to finish a marathon in 1 hour. So
And
anyway,
I see the problem, and but I think on the other side, for sure, cycling, hand cycling, the word by self says, okay, we are going to the UCI.
yeah,
But on the other hand, and this is the point, if we want to do events together, like marathon and hand cycling, or everybody and handicapped people, if we are going to a UCI race with a hand cycle, we have only a few athletes who can be there on the same course.
right.
So it's always difficult to get both together in a good area for hand cycling and cycling, upright cycling.
Yeah, oh, for sure. It's very difficult. Yeah. And it's fortunate to have some events that do it, even small ones, not UCI involved. They're willing, like the one in this weekend in Florida. The guy we're on the entry form, it's like, that's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Take advantage of those situations and hopefully grow them with promoters that are willing to, be involved in it. But it is difficult, but it is handy, like for hand cycles to do a standalone race by themselves, nothing else. It's difficult too and expensive because you have no one to share the expenses with or the organization with, where the marathons, they have so much organization and money.
Absolutely.
So it's like easy to get a little tiny piece of their spot for the wheelchairs. It's like nothing for their budget. Where cycling, I know cycling is huge in Europe and it's pretty big, but it's way smaller than running in the marathons and the amount of money that's going on in marathons. But it's good to get with them, but to do it yourself, it's to put on your own standalone race. We've done it here. It's fun, but it's a lot of work and a lot of time and money.
Yeah.
Or volunteers.
Absolutely. And for sure, I won't find a good solution for this. And I
No,
think
but it's a good idea. And I think the thing is people, really not, and like you said before, Errol Markland and those guys in Torsten, they promoted it, but new people need to step up and do that too.
absolutely.
And that's the thing. Some people don't do that. They just, race, take their medal and go home. And, and then they stop racing. But some people have a passion more than that. And, but so some people, we need people that are willing to do that, and stay involved. And I do have a passion for it because I've been doing it my whole life, but other athletes need to do the same thing. I think that's important.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm.
Cool. This was the first part, and it was very informative for me because I haven't the knowledge about your sportive life. And second point, maybe I have the same less information about your development in business. I know you have been at Top End, and I know you are now the owner of Carbon Bike. But maybe you can give us a overview over the development of your business.
Okay. Well, the way I got into the business of disabled sports or wheelchairs or whatever you want to call it, when I was young, well, out of high school, I went to college for a year and a half and flamed out and moved back to my hometown. And then I ended up getting different jobs. And then I got a job at a home care place, they call that in the US, where we did medical equipment. I do hospital beds, wheelchairs, oxygen tanks, walkers, commodes, all that stuff. And then that was like in 1980. And so then I started working there and I did that stuff. And then they were a growing company. We were about 2 hours north of New York City, where I grew up in my hometown. And so they started doing more wheelchair sports stuff because they met somebody, this guy, Marty Ball. I don't know if you've heard of him, but Marty Ball is one of the most iconic people in the United States in wheelchair racing and basketball, and worked for many companies. So he started working for this company that I was working for, and they started trying to do sports stuff. He was playing basketball, he was racing, you know, on chairs that were very primitive, but growing quickly, like really moving, you know, changing all the time. And so I kind of gravitated towards that. I like the idea of doing the sports thing better than hospital beds and oxygen tanks, you know, that kind of seemed more fun. So I went towards that way, and then I went to some events with him, you know, to the local rehab, and I was just like the guy with the truck, you know, we had a couple wheelchairs to show people and whatever. I guess I fixed tires and met people, but I liked it. And so that company grew. We did more and more of that stuff. And then at a race in New York, some Westchester, just north of New York City, wasn't the New York Marathon. They organized a wheelchair race at a rehab center, I think it was. And they got a bunch of people to come in with good wheelchair racers, the best one, most, you know, several of the best ones in the country. They had money to pay for them to come in, and they did a race, at a running race. And yeah, I met George Murray, my partner. And he was down here working for another company. And so anyway, I met him, and yeah, he was there they came up for the weekend or something, and he could tell I was into it. And he was like, well, you might want to check this place out. And we got more friendly. And so then I came down to Florida to check out this place.
Hey, what's going on?
He was trying to, you know, they were expanding. And so I went back and forth. I don't know if I want to move down there, but I kind of wanted to get out of my hometown. So anyway, my parents were in Florida too at the time. So I was like, oh, I can always go home if this doesn't work, and I'll go live with my parents. So this Marty Ball, he went to work for Quickie, which is part of Sunrise.
Yeah.
Before Sunrise owned Quickie. He went there, and which he had a huge job, and I went to Florida to learn how to weld. And so I moved to Florida, worked for this other company, and it took a little while. I think I moved to Florida in '84, worked there, and then in 1986 we were kind of having a falling out. Me and George Murray was getting along. We were getting along good. I was trying to make stuff on the weekend, you know, try this, let's do that. And I had the keys to the shop, I guess. And then, yeah, and then we started Top End in '86. And then we just kind of started making racing chairs. I was only going to make racing chairs, I said. That was it. But didn't happen. So yeah, so we did that, and then the company was growing, and I started making, I think I made a couple basketball chairs for people, that, you know, local guys or whatever. And then somebody came in with a bike thing, one of those attachments, you know, like they have the attachment bike that goes on your wheelchair. And he wanted me to help him attach it, and I did, but I was like, why don't you just let me make the back of the thing? We'll put the fork on there, and then you'll have a bike, you know, instead of, because he didn't need to take it on and off. He had room in his car, his van, or whatever. So that was the first one I made, and I guess that kind of got me in the mood. And then they just started, I guess I just made one, I guess, or started messing with it. And I was making bikes at the same time, bicycles a little bit. So it was kind of convenient. So yeah, and then 92, went to Barcelona. That was the first Paralympics I went to. And I was Top End. I was on the national team, actually. I was the equipment manager for the wheelchair racing team. and which was very difficult because I was a chair manufacturer trying to win every race, and I had a lot of people in Europe in my chairs. Actually, more people, and not so many in the U.S. because there was guys making chairs in the U.S. So some people were in my chairs. But anyway, but we top end, we killed it there. Yeah, made a lot of medals. And then Invacare and Sunrise at the time were interested in getting in that kind of business because they thought it was cool. You know, we want to be in the sports business. You guys get on the Boston Globe, when the Boston Marathon winner, there's a wheelchair on there. You know, we want to be part of that. They don't put hospital beds on the front page of big, you know, we're on ESPN. So they wanted to do that. So Sunrise, yeah, they approached us. We talked to both companies, and then Sunrise went with this other company out west. It was closer to them. It was Quickie at the time, and then Sunrise, and then yeah, and then I hooked up with Invacare in '93, and we just kept doing the same thing. They just kind of let me do whatever. Let's make this. Let's make that. Just don't lose money. It was more secure, you know, for us. So, because we were a small company, me and my wife were running it. Well, George Murray, he had switched out of there around '91. Actually, I had a partner in Belgium at the time for 2 years. That was my partner. So anyway, so then did that, and 2013 parted ways with Top End, and had a non-compete for 2 years, so I couldn't work in the business. And so, but I was kind of in the business, you know, I was going to events anyway, and messing around and talking to Franz from Carbon Bike. And we were good friends. I sponsored Franz Needlespach, you know, for years, and we've known each other. He's been here a bunch of times. And he wanted to kind of get out of it. It's too much for him.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, in 2015 at Switzerland, yeah, in Knoxville, that's when I got Carbon Bike at those games. We did all the paperwork there at the World Championships. Yeah, we did everything, and then I became Carbon Bike USA, and yeah, did that. So been doing that now for 6 years.
Okay.
Well,
It's a long journey for sure.
yeah, I know. I'm old.
And for sure, I hope, and the PVA team as well, hope that you are not stopping this journey the next 10 years, because we are very happy about your sponsorship and everything you're doing for us. And for me myself, I'm very impressive how you develop every year new bikes. So do not stop your journey at this moment, please, because we need this competition for better bikes. But where you got your experience, how to build a bike?
Well, I mean, the carbon ones, I don't do the carbon fiber stuff, just so people know, because there's some skills, whatever, you're too old to learn, or you let the professionals do it, and it's not easy work. But the geometry of the bike is kind of the same, and the position, you know, as it evolves, you can do it in whatever material you like. But in the beginning, I mean, it was like one step at a time, really. You know, you made one chair, you know, well, I started racing chairs, you know, you made one, and then, you know, the next day you made one better, you know, or you changed something, because we weren't making 1,000 of them, you know. So, I mean, we were just changing. And so I always got on the thing where, you know, I wanted, like, every fall have a new chair, you know, with the rate, just some new model, change this, do that. And, you know, if possible. And then the bikes, same thing, you know, I built bikes, and then I had the one model, then had another model. They were just kind of all just evolved. And then, and sometimes, everybody looks at everybody else's bikes too, it's like, that's not, he's part of that idea. Or you see some idea on a bicycle even, oh, we can use that part. That makes sense, or let's try those wheels or different stuff. So it's just an evolution. But yeah, I'm self-taught. I mean, I didn't go to welding. I can weld. Haven't welded much. I do a little bit, but there's better welders than me. And yeah, so just kind of self-taught, and the experience, is just dealing with the athletes really, and seeing them, just seeing what works, what doesn't work, and it's a tricky business with the multiple disabilities too. Because what works for that person doesn't work for that person, and a lot of people don't understand that. I kind of am pretty good at that because I've just been doing it so long. Well, that's not going to work, or it's probably not a good idea at least. So yeah, it's basically just working with different people. I mean, I kind of I miss the races right now because that's, that's what I do. Go to races and make something, okay, or try to make something or fix something, that didn't work. So.
Yeah, for me, in the last 15 years, a very interesting point was when I arrived in Rio, and I've seen the bike from
Where? In where?
Rio.
Oh, okay.
Where Carbon Dark get here bike from the
Williams and Lotus, yeah.
And
yeah,
this was
Williams.
a completely different level, and this was incredible to see this bike.
Yeah, well, that for sure. Yeah, that was a motivator. And then I think for me, in London was the one that really kicked us in the face, was Zanardi. And I hope he's okay. I love the guy. He's going through really tough times, and I hope he's okay. But yeah, he was a really good racer anyway. And then he showed up there with that frame, the carbon frame that was, I mean, I didn't have to see him pushing it. It was like, that thing was aero. And, compared to anything we were making out of aluminum with plates welded all over them or whatever. And I remember Ernst was at the practice. He was at the track at Brands Hatch, and I was not there. I was in London, but I wasn't at the track at the time. And he texted me, and he said, "I'm racing for second." I just saw Zanardi's new bike.
Yeah.
And that was basically what everybody thought. Like it was like there was no way, and because the bike was just like light years ahead, and it took us. Well, I got Ernst a carbon bike in 2016 that was made in the United States, carbon fiber one, but we got it made here, and it was a job, and he used that, and he won gold medal in that bike in the road race, but that one, you're right, the same sensation when you see those, like, wow, what am I going to do now? That's the kind of thing that keeps you going now.
Yeah, and very interesting because I've spoken to in Germany, we have for Olympic sports a very high level.
Just hold on 1 second. Some guy's delivering something here. I got to.
So is everyone doing good? How are the workouts with the low cadence? Good? It's fun?
Low cadence sucks.
Who was that?
Okay, I'm back. Sorry.
Cool. So you needed a new coffee, huh?
I knew what?
A new coffee, huh?
Yeah. No, actually, guys, delivering something. Yeah, so yeah, those bikes. You had Karen's bike. Yeah, that kind of pissed me off, honestly, because we had just made her a bike that like 6 months ago, because I was with Carbon Bike then. And so she just got a new bike from us, and she just got the brand new fork, like 4 months or 5 months before Rio. And then she shows up in that bike and wins the world championship. And it was basically like new and improved version of ours that was basically usable for one race. Yeah, because it broke in the road race, actually. The bumper broke off. It wasn't, and yeah, I've talked to her since. She's actually got another bike, but we're friends. But
Okay.
yeah, she was like, it was a one-time bike. It was totally non-adjustable. And it fit her right then at the moment. She's like, she can't even ride it now. It's like, yeah, anyway. So that was
Yeah.
kind of a thorn in my side.
Okay, but I think it shows that when we have money behind the athletes, there are some more steps to go with the bikes.
Oh, yeah.
I've spoken with the German high-end for the Olympic sports company FES. I don't know if you know them. They're producing the bobs for the winter sport.
Oh, yeah.
And
I think I have heard of them. Yeah.
And we've spoken with them about producing a hand bike at the beginning of 2000 during my PhD, but yeah, it was handicap sport, so no money for us.
Yeah, the thing is, I think with those big companies too, they need to look at it as a marketing venture is more than a business venture, because the volume is so low.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, the carbon bikes, ours and any carbon fiber hand cycle made around the world, they're not cheap. And people go, well, why can't I go to a bike shop? They're so much cheaper. Well, they make 1,000 of one model, so there's big money behind that, where, if we don't sell a lot of them, and then they're still developing. So if you make 1,000 of one model, and then in the meantime, somebody comes out with something better, and you're sitting on a bunch of bikes that are kind of obsolete, or just going to have to sell them for cheap, which maybe that's okay. But, the big companies like Honda's been making the racing wheelchairs. That's really a marketing campaign. That's just they are into doing that. They're not selling many, and no, and they're not making money on it really at all, I'm sure. But it's cool,
Yeah,
and it is good, and they have done good development, and it's nice to see companies do that. Come forward and do that.
yeah, we will see what happens during the next 10 years in hand cycling. But then right now we have the third topic, and this is to talk about the future of hand cycling. So first of all, what do you think will be changing after Rio, after Tokyo, if there comes some changes for the bike? And what for me is very important, maybe you can give the athletes around us information about this year, because there have been changes in the rules for hand cycling as well.
That's another good subject. Yeah. The question you ask, actually, I think is two-part, but they're connected. Because the development in the future, a little bit depends on if they actually do the rules changes that were proposed, and if they actually decide to enforce them, and when they do. Because now with Tokyo being postponed 1 year, and really nothing is going on as far as classification changes or that whole other can of worms. So I don't know if it's going to happen next year now, because the rule proposals, the big change really with the rule proposal was to switch to all bikes would have 20-inch wheels in the back, 26-inch wheels on the front. That was pretty much the rule. There was a bunch of other rules that were about some footrests and bumpers and things, but not anything too crazy. But that's not a crazy thing, but it's a big deal as far as manufacturing. So if we know for a fact, and I assume that's going to happen, but if we know for a fact that everybody's going to have 20-inch wheels on the back, I think it'll be better for the sport because everybody can focus on the same thing, all different manufacturers, and we can be more efficient and it should be less costly because it's very difficult when somebody goes, well, I want a bike with big wheels in the back. I want 26-inch because that's all I've ever had. And I don't care, whatever. So then we still can make them, but it's like, it's the old model, because we didn't invest in the new molds for the new model. So once that gets streamlined, which I hope it does soon, I think that will help somewhat definitely, I think, with the product development, as far as the shapes and the way the frames are going to be made. I think, we're just going to have to spend more money on wind tunnel testing and, just more testing kind of things. Because, people go to wind tunnels, but they're made for bicycles, most of them. So they really don't give you great tests, straight on, are you pedaling or no? It's like, it's not real. Because nobody's done super dedicated ones, because if you want to go, like I know the Austrians, they do wind tunnel testing, and I almost went with them one time, but I didn't. And then, they just did it for like one day because that's all the budget they had, and it was like cost a fortune, unless you get volunteers. Like Tim DeVries, he gets wind tunnel testing, and I think they spend a lot of money there, but I don't know if they do it with anybody else. So, but I think that will show, what we can do. But I know for us, we're trying to make the bike faster. That's pretty much it, and safe. And, we want the bike to last. We want the bike to be somewhat adjustable. So it works for everybody, and just keep working with that. I don't know without testing, but I think the bike is getting closer to being pretty defined, honestly.
Okay.
Like bicycles. Bicycles, if you look at them now, they're all pretty much the same thing. They got some aerodynamic rules in place, but the wheels are in the same place. The wheels are the same size. They all basically have the same geometry. The steering, you can't mess with steering. It's got to, or else you crash. And then, so it's getting closer. It's changing quick though. The other parts, the components are changing very quickly.
Yeah.
That's a big thing too, actually, which is I think quite good for the hand cycles with the new stuff, the new 12-speed stuff. Really good for hand cycles. Simpler.
Maybe you can explain about the brakes, what there have been changed now, the rules.
Well, they want, oh yeah, that one, that's why I said that's not a big deal because it's not like you need a new bike. Yeah, they want the brakes on the handle. They want one brake on one handle, just so you don't have to go reach for it, which a lot of people think it's a pain in the neck or the cable's a problem, but in a race situation, it's not good. Time trial is one thing, but in a road race, if you're racing at a really high level with 20 guys in an H3 race going 40, 45K per hour going into a corner, you want the brake in your hand, just like a car, you want it under your foot. It's like, you don't want to have to go reach for it. So that's, I mean, and to me, that's common sense. I really don't even like selling a bike without the brake on the handle. Because to me, it's a liability, you know, for us as a company too. You know, somebody ends up having a bad problem and it's like, well, I couldn't reach my brake and whatever. It's like, and they say, well, where's the brake? Well, it's down there. I have to go reach for it. I mean, it's, or my, yeah, even the parking brakes that are kind of hidden, that's pretty sketchy to me too. You know, you should have the second lever should be, because what if your cable breaks and you know, you can't even hardly reach it while you're riding. So, but that's the big thing, you know, they want brakes, and then the disc brake is pretty nice. We've been doing more and more disc brakes.
Is it coming for hand cycling as well?
Hmm?
Is it coming for hand cycling as
Yeah,
well?
yeah, oh yeah, yeah, just more and more people. It's a little complicated because then you got to get new wheels. You know, you need a backup wheel. It's got to be a disc brake backup wheel. You know, and it's a little more complicated, but they do work really well, and especially in mountainous situations. You know, really big downhills and things like that. It's definitely nice.
Yeah, and is it working with your fork when it's closed?
Yeah, well, we had to change the dropouts where the wheels attach, but it does. But the newest fork, it works super. There's all kinds of clearance. Yeah, you can do it either way, but yeah, I think there's going to be more and more of them.
So it's coming like the MTBs, or in the cycling, they are doing more and more disc brakes as well.
Yeah, the disc, I mean, even the Tour de France, it was like, I don't know if it was half the teams had disc brakes on their road bikes last year. And I know UCI actually wanted to enforce that. They kind of wanted that to become a rule, but I think it's been a little battle with the manufacturers of brakes and hubs. Because, you know, the companies that have good disc brake programs, they're like, yeah, they want it. And then the other ones are like, no, we don't want it. So they got to catch up. But yeah, that's, you know, because they, same like on the tandems, they definitely want
Yeah.
the tandem bikes, and yeah. So anyway, but that's, yeah, it's coming for sure. Maybe, I don't know if it'll be mandatory ever, but yeah.
Okay. Do you know what kind of system they're using to fix the bike? So it's in the upright cycle, they're using their, I don't know the name in English, where you can
Quick
use
release.
Hmm?
The quick release with the
Yes.
lever. Yeah, you can do either. You do quick release. I mean, my road bike has what they call the through axle, which is a fatter one, and so does my mountain bike, but they have disc brakes on them. But it's not easy to change the wheel quick. It's kind of I think it's kind of a gimmick actually. But the quick, yeah, you can do quick release with the disc brake.
Okay.
Yeah, same, it's just it's a little trickier to get. You got to get the disc in there, you know, in between the pads and not mess up the pads.
Yeah.
But so that's the only tricky part, but it changes the same.
Okay. Yeah. And the meaning is, and this is the reason why I'm asking, maybe I have to change my system for the racket trainer again when they're using cycle as a the disc brakes.
Change what now?
My ergometer to testing, because you need more space and you have a different adaptation set to get it for the Cyclist 2 racket trainer.
Oh, you're talking about your testing thing.
Yeah.
I don't think so. Oh, maybe.
Yes. For cycling, I change things, and now it could be that I have to change things for hand cycling as well.
I don't know. I'd have to look at send me a picture of your thing again. I don't know. I don't think it would affect that.
Okay.
Maybe. I don't know.
This is a point which is hand cycling always expensive. You have only 20 athletes, and 10 have this system and 10 have the other system. And it means it takes, it cost me 7,000 euros.
Yeah. I think the disc brake thing probably right now for your high-end guys, I don't think many will switch right away.
Okay.
They got to get new wheels.
Llévate esto.
It might be a little
Esa,
heavier and whatever.
llévatelo. Llévate esa.
Wait a second. So, no, go ahead. Sorry.
But yeah, but anyway, slowly but surely, there's going to be more disc brakes out there, I think.
Okay.
I would think so, because it is nice. You just have to be committed to it.
Okay. And if I'm a very rich athlete, I have a very good sponsorship. Yeah. What do you think I have to buy to have the best bike? And what kind of components I need to have the fastest bike when I have enough money? What is necessary and makes me really faster?
Well, I think you'd want to break it into a couple parts there. I mean, if I had if you have as much money as you wanted, whatever, you would have every wheel known to man to try. So you can put them on any bike. I'm guilty of that myself. Whenever I would ride or start making something, I would get another wheel, or like I have 2-spoke wheels, I have disc wheels, I got spoked wheels, so that's one thing for sure. The frames, I think we make the best bike that's not 100% custom made. I think our bike is really, really good, especially the new ones, better and better. It's very adjustable, which I think is important because you can find your position and there's ways you can adapt it too. If you had unlimited money and you had unlimited time, you probably would, try to get custom made frame that perfectly fits you, like a glove. And, maybe you'd only use it for one season because your body changes, or you have to be in the absolute perfect shape to sit in that position, because your body changes the better shape you get in. If you don't train for 3 months, it's like, oh, how did I do this? And then, so, yeah, I think, I mean, if I could, totally custom make, but, I was going to race, I would probably do that just to try it if I could afford it and afford the time, because that's really hard to get. It's like, the Austrians, I'll use an example, and I don't know exactly what Sopor does, but the Austrians I know is a very small place, and they custom make those bikes, and he doesn't make hardly any. They take a very long time, and they kind of fit the guys perfect, and then sometimes, they think it's perfect when they're training or when they get it, and then it changes. So that's scary to me, and it's like there's 2 different businesses. So like Zanardi's bike,
Yeah.
That's, he could get another one. Oh, let's change this a little bit, and that was the only ones they made. Or they made one for Anna, I think, the other Italian H5 girl. But but component wise, I mean, we are kind of steering people towards the 12-speed, the new 12-speed setups with one chainring, and using multiple different change your chainring or just different cassettes. It's really simple. First of all, only you need one derailleur, and you don't even need that post by your belly that comes down. That's a problem for a lot of guys. And then, you can just change your cassette depending on the course. And with 12 speeds, and then they have, the old ones, well, years ago it was 12 was the smallest cog on the cassette, and then it got to 11, and that was a big thing. Well, now it's 9 or 10. So, and then you can get a bigger range, plus there's 12 gears. And what you can do if you can get a cassette, if you can use a cassette with the smallest cog or even the 10, you can use a smaller chain ring, which makes the chain guard smaller, makes the chain shorter. makes you, you know, all those things. It combines a lot of things. You do need to work with it probably to find your perfect gear ratios, but with those cassette sizes, it really opens a lot of doors. Where, you know, 5 years ago, people would have 3 chain rings on their bike. What a nightmare. Shifting, you know, it just didn't work. You know, and the range, the gear, we're using a combination of cycling, road cycling and mountain biking together, which are not really designed to work together. And then plus it's upside down on a hand cycle, you know, it's like not the right way. The derailleur's on the wrong side, and you know, it's on the top, not on the bottom. So having those 3 chain rings just never been fun. And then going to 2 was better as we got better stuff, SRAM, Shimano, you know, that helped out a lot. And then now with the new 12-speed stuff that's coming along, and it's kind of a mix of mountain bikes or just mountain bike stuff, actually. It's pretty nice. I think that, you know, it's annoying to have to change things like that. But to me, it's really pretty simple. And it does work. I mean, I have it on both my bikes now. It's like strangely nice.
Yeah. But for sure, it's a little bit depending on which class you are, right? In a hand cycling, and you're being a H1, H2 athlete, different levels. You have to think different than.
Well, you don't have to make the bike really different. You just need to, you know, mix and match the components, and it's mostly the cassettes. Because I mean, you can get on my mountain bike, and well, I'll give you some shameless marketing here.
Yeah, that's good.
This is a 10. No, this is a 946. Can you see that?
Yeah.
This is a 946. So that's a 9 and a 46. So you can put, depending on what chain ring you put on here, and this only has 1, you can really change your range so much. So this is too big for this setup. It's kind of more just for a picture because it had this carbon thing on here. But this bike, the way we've been doing it, we're doing it mostly with like a 46 chain ring. And if you can go online and look at gear charts from a bunch of different guys that do things like that, and you can see the numbers. But most people we're using a 53 as their big chain ring. Tom Davis is using like a 49.
Really?
With a 12-speed setup.
Okay.
So, because you got that 9, I might not have the numbers exact, but he's using smaller, and because with the small cog on the front wheel, that's a huge change from a 9 to 11, 9, 10, 11 on the little thing. That's big. And so if you look at the gear chart, you actually see the crossover is kind of the same. But with this one, with a 46 is the big gear, and you can get them with a 50, which is even bigger. And if you put like a 40 chain ring on there, which is for H1, or a 36, you could go up anything, depending on with 1 chain ring. And it's light, you know, it's not that heavy. The stuff it is just simple. So you need to find that balance. But I know Stefan, my partner in France, he's doing more of that stuff than I am here, actually. And he's done a bunch of, it's called one by, which it's on mountain bikes mostly, but 1 chain ring. And you just got to dial in the cassettes and now the chain ring size, and there's a lot more available. So that's, to me, that's a big deal right now. That's evolving.
Sure. And you have experience with your athletes and by yourself, and have seen 50
Need
years,
attendance
years
numbers.
hand cycling now. And
Jody needs attendance numbers for the
someone
for the
can,
for the
coach,
for the Zoom. Hold on for a second. Hold on for a second.
thank you. What is your opinion?
Hey, you called?
What is your opinion about the crank length? So when we are talking about this range and the cassette and about the blade, depending as well, in my eyes, about the length of the crank as well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's definitely narrowing itself down on the recumbent bike.
What do I think about crank length?
Somebody else answering that? But
Wait a minute.
no?
I heard my name. A question?
So Chris,
Somebody needs to mute Butch.
Stand down, Butch. I've done muted you 3 times.
Stand down. That's funny.
so we try it again,
yeah.
okay?
Yeah, the crank length, everybody likes to try different crank lengths. I don't know. I think it depends a little bit, just maybe I think arm length and how much power you have actually. If you have natural power, I think you can use longer cranks a little bit. Because you just, I don't know, and long arms. I don't know if your tests show different, but some people just need to spin, to go fast. They can't mash, as we call it on a bike. I'm kind of a masher. On my bicycle, I don't have a super high cadence. I tend to like a big gear, but I have power and I can deal with it. And a little longer crank sometimes helps too with that bigger gear. Some people just can't do that, and they try. And then the other thing is, if the cranks are too long, you start to move. It's the same on a bike. If your cranks are too long, your seat's too high, you kind of bounce on your seat and you're not in a good position, you're not steady. So you need to kind of find that balance. And then also there's the thing about the cranks hitting your belly. So if they're too long.
Also winter season sometimes.
Yeah, we just made some cranks the other day, 145 millimeter, because the guy gained weight in the last 6 months. Like, I can't imagine pedaling he better learn how to spin because he has no leverage. So it seems like it's getting narrower, the limits. We don't make hardly any long ones, over 170, very rarely. And that's typically more for people that don't race. They like to just ride and cruise. They got a good bike and they want to just ride. But I think, a little bit shorter cranks, you got better acceleration probably. You can spin it up, you can get it going. Where the longer ones, it's a bigger circle.
Yeah.
But there's guys like Yetzi. I never measured his cranks. I kept forgetting every time I would see him, see his bike somewhere. But Yetzi Platt, I think he uses pretty long ones. They look long to me, just from the top, just from my position. But I could be wrong. But he's a very long-armed guy, and he's got tons of power.
Yeah. I'm not sure at this moment. I don't know. I can't say. Yeah. Anyway, I think it's getting more again in the direction of shorter ones. So,
Yeah. No, I agree. Shorter. Yeah. Not longer.
No.
Yeah. Over 170, we hardly ever sell. That's what I said. And it's more 165 and down.
Yeah. And what is the point for the future? I need to be or when I have athletes which are thinking about a new bike, which thing they have to be sure that they have it on the bike? What do you think it's necessary for the future for a good bike? Is it so the question is, if I'm looking for a new bike
Mm-hmm.
and they asking for sure they have to use the small wheels, because everyone have to use the small wheels.
Yeah.
But they want to be 4 or 5 years with one bike and not buying 2 years later a bike. And when they have to invest a little bit of money, yeah, where they have focus on that bike. So which is necessary to invest? Is it
The frame and the frame and the fork,
the frame and the fork?
because you can change everything else, first of all. So if you want something to last 4 or 5 years, chances are technologies in shifting or wheels, they come and go. It's like I have a bunch of wheels that seem nice, but they're old. To sell them cheap because there's new ones. But I think a good frame and fork that fits you right, that will last too. Because, I'm not bragging, but the hand cycle the kneeler that I was riding last year, that's the first one that we got made. And bike is rock solid. It's not extra heavy. It's not the lightest bike in the world, but that usually they don't last anyway. But you want to get something that lasts and fits you good. And that's, I think that's the big thing, because I don't think people, unless they totally change their body shape, they're not going to change their position that much. You're not going to change your disability level. And so that's, to me, is really important. But people change bikes, so don't. They do. It's amazing, honestly. Racing wheelchairs are worse. They change those things like shoes. But I would. I don't know if I'm giving you the answer you want there, but I think that's part of it. A bike that'll last long.
Yeah.
And fits you right and has the newest technology that's available at the moment, at least.
Yeah. Okay, cool. From my side, I want to open this questions to the others so they can ask you some questions. And I think there are coming a lot of questions because everyone is talking about bike and fitting and some other stuff. So I'm very interested to see what they ask you now.
Okay, yeah, I'm good. Ernst was going to call, but he watched and he said I was doing fine, so he didn't call in. Ernst,
so do you have a little bit more time?
Yeah, go ahead, a little while.
Okay, who would like to ask questions to Chris?
No one.
Give them a second.
Okay.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
So, I wanted to ask when you were on the second topic of your business, but I never heard the story of how you and Joel got hooked up. And, in essence.
Yeah, well, Joel, Joel, you're talking about Joel McCabe. Joel works for me. He's upstairs right now making a racing chair. He was working at Top End before I left. I didn't know him that well because we had like 40 people working there at the time, and so I knew guys, and he wasn't there long, but he was working there and welding and making stuff, and I left Top End probably a year after he started there, I guess. But then I was going to events, and he was showing up at events. And he was riding the hand cycle, and he was a big athletic guy and whatever. And so we started, I don't know, we became friends more and more, even he was still working at Top End. And then, I don't know, he just got interested in working over here and working with me. And, with Carbon Bike, smaller company. you know, and not being a number, I guess, kind of guy. Maybe he wasn't thinking that, but yeah, that's kind of how it just started. And then I hired him part-time a bit, and then, yeah, he's been working here 2 years now. And yeah, it's going really well.
Cool. Different. Another question.
Hey, Chris, I got a question for you.
Okay.
From either Carbon Bike or even at Top End when you were working there at the time, I'm fairly new to the hand cycling sport. I started this past November. I have a Top End, and I have yet to travel with the bike or have to go somewhere for a competition or otherwise. So recommendations from you, from either company, as far as what's the best way to travel with a hand cycle, as far as taking it apart, leaving it together. What's your experience or recommendations?
Well, my recommendation for traveling, if you can, is take it apart and put it back together and learn how to do that first of all. So then you learn how your bike works, because I think that's pretty important. And then it depends on how much you're going to travel. You know, if you're only going to travel once or twice a year, and you take the bike apart and bubble wrap it and put it in a good cardboard box that you can buy at the U-Haul place, that works pretty good. But you know, if you can start traveling all the time with like professional team and stuff, then you know, guys get custom made boxes. I don't have a box. There's other people that have been making boxes, but then I don't know if, you know, some people make a box where they put all the wheels in a box and the bike, and then the box is so big you need to rent a cargo van to bring it on the whatever. So I mean, when I traveled to Europe and raced, and I bring my kneeling bike, I would of course take it apart. I had a wheel bag, a padded wheel bag you buy from Top End or Sport Aid. I can get them too. And then I had a bag made, a padded bag that I could put it in there, and I was comfortable with that. And but I packed it carefully, and I didn't put 100 pounds of stuff in there. So it was a light bag. It was kind of big, but it was light, so they could handle it on the planes or anybody helping you. And then that worked for me. And there's other people that do the bags. And then, or you can get custom made boxes. I know Able Sport is making frame boxes for the racing chair that are pretty nice. They're not cheap, but they are pretty nice, and they're light. And he's talking about making one for the racing chair also. But at the moment, well, with this whole pandemic thing, some product developments have been put on hold. You know, nobody's traveling. So, but that's, yeah, I would definitely, and for everybody, I would really learn how to work on your bike. And, you know, and traveling, you're on your own, you know, a lot of times. And, or, you know, you should be able to take care of your bike. Everybody that's any good in the world can take care of their own bike, pretty much. You know, if they got a problem. So I think that's really important. And then you'll know why it's working, it doesn't work. And yeah, you need to understand it, you know. So that's not the best answer, but that's what I
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, is there another question? If not, I will ask my last question, and then I will say some last words to Chris. So is there a question to Chris from your side?
Yes.
Liz.
Yes. Do you mind, Chris? What is it? So it's always interesting to see or hear about what the lightest bike is, the Zanardi bike, the Karen Dart bike. How do you see bikes in the future? Will they get lighter, or will it be not worth it because you lose the stability of the bike and the in case you crash and stuff like that? What do you think?
Well, it's a tough one because, you know, the bikes, like the ones we're making, and then even out of aluminum, the bikes are made, you can make them pretty light, but they got to last. And then, you know, if you want to make the super duper lightest bike, you probably need to make a bike with, you know, real small wheels and really short bike. And everything minimalized, but that might not be the fastest bike either. So I think it's a mix, because people always ask, what's the bike weigh? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, exactly, it depends what wheels you put on it and stuff. But you want to make the bike that's fast, rides good, stable, in the corners, downhill when you're going 80K per hour, that kind of stuff. And, if you want the bikes that were made, that I made and even other guys made back in 2008, they were lighter, but they weren't better. There's a lot of things involved in it. So I think if the materials start changing and we streamline even things like the gearing, less, the 12-speed thing, that can be lighter, just having one chain ring, one derailleur. And then the wheels, you can keep messing with them. And we're kind of stuck. We got 3 wheels. They got to be kind of far apart, and then that makes like a flex machine if you make it too soft. You can make it light. I remember actually at Top End, I was riding, doing the kneelers, and I would make my own kneeler. I'd sell mine to somebody on a trip, and then I'd make another one. And I made one out of titanium. And it was really nice, but it was like, it was because titanium's really flexible. So it was like the only way to make it stiff out of titanium was I was just going to have it heavy, make heavier titanium, use bigger tubes, because that's a flexible material. So I think they're coming out with new materials all the time, and it depends how you make the bike too. What you put inside it, foam or no foam, or structures to make it stiffer. But I'm like, this bike, our newest bike, is heavier than the bike from 4 years ago. But that bike was like a noodle. It was carbon fiber, but it was soft. So, and people know it. They know it. Anyway.
Okay. It seems that Lee have a question.
Yes, I do have a question, please, Chris. I'm still riding and racing my first Top End RX I obtained in 2015. It still has the 3 chain rings, so they're not completely antiquated. I've made numerous modifications to it, but it sounds like you're telling me with the requirement for small rear wheels that I'm going to have to purchase a new hand cycle. Is that correct?
Well, it depends. It depends what kind of competitions you do, because that's a UCI rule, which would be with the IPC, also with the Paralympics. So if you're planning on doing those kind of events and they do actually change the rules, which we think they will, then yes, if you go to those competitions in probably a year or 2. But if you only plan on doing domestic races, and other things, no, you won't. The bike will still be fine. There's not a problem with that. It's just that's not the direction the bikes are going. Pretty much. Now, if you go to a race, if you did go to any World Cups in Europe or the World Championships, you would see there's like almost all the bikes already have small rear wheels, probably over 90% of them, even without the rule change. So it's not like a drastic change for them because they're already doing it. But yeah, so it depends on what you want to do and how far you get. But you won't need a new bike just because they make the rule.
Most people listening may think that might not apply to me then, but I have high aspirations.
Well, yeah, I hear you. So I'm just telling you because it's, yeah, if you do that, then you probably will need a new bike. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Okay, one last question from the group. I don't
I,
know.
I got a quick one.
Well,
You got something, Steve?
I do. So I am currently trying to replace a tire on my top end. I'm running. What am I running on the back? Anyway, I want to get away from or stay with the clinchers. Ended up with a Karima on the front, and I want to change it out. I'm not particularly interested in it. But what my question is what do you suggest as a good front tire for your
clinchers,
bike? Yes.
26-inch front wheel.
I am. Yes, I believe so.
Well, the ones we usually use Continental. I guess the Grand Prix 5000s they switched to, or we got Schwalbe Pro 1s, which actually that's what we're almost using exclusively now, because first of all, we can get them, because with the pandemic, it's tough to get some tires. So yeah, Schwalbe tires I think are real good. That's what we use pretty much. And there's other brands, but Schwalbe or Continental, I think are probably the two best ones. But there's other ones. In 26-inch, we are somewhat limited right now.
My apologies. I do apologize. And that is a good answer. I apologize too. But how about rim as well? I'm running the top end spin energy on the back. But for some reason, the V8, when I had asked them for the bike, they had, I'm running a disc brake on the front. And they sent me a tire with the Alta set up. And then I sent the top end spin energy back, and then they sent me this Karima. And so that's why I'm trying to replace that rim. But what would you recommend as a good rim with a disc brake?
You mean a wheel, not just the rim?
A wheel, right.
Well, I have some. Yeah, I don't. I pretty much use my own brand of wheels, or I would use Karima if somebody asks for it. And I don't really use other wheels, and I'm not sure what top end uses. They do use Karima. Mine are. You looking for a wheel that's not carbon?
Oh no, I just don't know what all you have. I would be interested in,
Yeah, we have wheels. You can call me afterwards, and I can show you, send you pictures. You can email me or whatever. But yeah,
thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, Chris, I wanted to ask, do you think we'll ever get back to the argument of camber, having camber again? Or is it with the small wheels, it just defeats the idea of trying to hide part of that wheel behind the body?
I don't know. We sell almost all our bikes with camber right now, so I don't know.
Yeah, what's the degree of camber?
We could do 9 or 12.
Yeah.
Yeah, almost all our bikes are camber bikes.
Cool. It's just strange how it's like every 18 months this stuff changes back and forth.
Yeah, well, it depends who gets a bike or what idea people have or whatever. I don't know, but it's if the wheels are straight, aligned correctly, the bike rolls very good and it corners better. So to me, it's the wheel's leaning like a bike when you go around a corner. So that's been the whole thing. But if somebody wants no camber, we can do no camber. It's not a big deal. But pretty much all of them. And yeah, maybe it'll change. We had camber 20 years ago, and it went away, and then it came back. I'm not the only one doing camber, on our bikes. Other people are too in Europe. Yeah, but things recycle. But with our bike, you can change it too. You could do 0 on the same bike, or you can do really narrow with 9 degrees or 15 or 12. I mean, not 15. But yeah, I don't know. Just depends what people think. I think I don't know if it's just perception or reality, or if they don't know how to adjust their rear wheels, or the bike flexes, so then the toe in changes when you flex. That could be.
Cool.
I want to also thank you once again. This will be your second year of sponsoring us, and appreciate your time today as well, which is very valuable.
Yeah, no problem. I appreciate it. I'm really glad everybody's, going with it. When we talked a couple months ago, it's like, it's important to keep it going and keep the sport growing, and support it as best we can. To me, that's all I've been doing kind of. So I really like it, and I think it's important, and checks in the mail, Did you get the check yet? I know.
Yeah, we got it taken care of. Thank you.
Yeah, I think it got lost or something. But yeah, no problem. I hope to see more events, and I guess we'll see most everybody at Huntsville, right? Or a lot of people.
I think that's going to be our big push, and there'll be a handful of people there this weekend as well.
Oh, at the race? Yeah, no, we got a decent little crowd. I'm kind of happy about that. It's going to be I think it'll be a good race. We can build on it for next year. That's what I kind of like to do, get it going. I'd like to make it a big event, actually, if possible. Yeah, hopefully.
Then Chris, thank you for your time. Like Jody said already, and it was a incredible good time and very informative. You have been very open, and that's very cool. And for sure, I hope we see each other this year at any place in Europe or wherever. And,
yeah, hopefully. We're sponsoring. I don't know if it's the best move, but we're kind of helping with the World Cup in Belgium. And our company is a little bit, it's like, it's coming fast. I hope things pick up speed now.
Yeah, it's, I'm unsure. I hope for sure that we have a normal season.
Yeah.
But when I'm seeing how the numbers decrease, or how long we need to decrease the numbers in Europe, I'm unsure.
Yeah,
But
well, I think anybody that's sure is not smart. It's like, I think you need to be unsure, but be ready,
Absolutely.
Be
And
prepared.
my athletes will be ready, and I hope you will have success with your bikes.
Yeah.
And
Hope so.
looking forward to see you in any place all over the world in the future.
Yep, me too.
Thank you for everything.
All right, guys. We'll see you. Have a good one. Happy training.
Yes, thank you. Tell Ernst thanks for coming on too.
Yeah, okay, no problem. See you.
Cool. Any question from your side about the training session of today?
Low cadence.
Yes. You like it, huh? Any other comments?
Hey, I just wanted to add in on the last comment about people inquiring about camber and no camber and different things to consider. With your fit of the bike and where everything is at, if you're considering different types of bike, the more camber you end up putting on a bike, unless you adjust the backrest or the rest of the bike too, you're going to lower yourself, your body, relative to the ground. And so if your elbows are really close, it is something that you have to consider, because you'll have a lot more, if you don't change anything else but change a bike, put camber on it, you're going to have a lot more elbow strikes. Ask me how I know.
Anything else?
I have a question. This is Marco.
Yeah.
So I struggle with the trainer. Now, how beneficial is the trainer compared to just riding on the road? Because it's like torture for me sitting on this thing.
Okay, there's different points. So from my side, as a coach, where you have to be in the right areas for the training. The training on the roller is the best way you can train because you will hit exactly the numbers you have to hit. If you go on the road, your training will not as precisely as on the roller. So the roller is, as the view from my side as a coach, the best tool. On the other side, when you're going closer and closer to a race outside, you need time on the road because you have to learn how to act on the road with corners, with uphill, downhill, with riding with others. So that is the other point. But if you be very precisely in your training, you should use a roller.
Okay. So it's good. It's like after an hour and a half, I'm just like, want to commit suicide.
Absolutely. And if you want to be very strong in the future, 1.5 hours is nothing.
Yeah.
So there are some athletes around us which are training for a long distance Ironman, and they for sure need a little bit more than 1.5 hours on the roller.
Mm.
Well, Marco, you've only been doing this, what, like 9 months, right?
Yeah, I've been trying to being consistent on it. I've gotten better and having a little more endurance on the roller and stuff, and I've raised my FTP up a lot on it. It's just I've been trying to figure out ways to try to make it better. I've done I got the Wahoo computer, and they have like some workouts on it, and it seemed like I do better kind of like when it does like a countdown and stuff. So it kind of keeps me engaged and like continuing. So I've downloaded Training Peaks and trying to figure out, to upload workouts on there.
Have you done the Zwift platform yet?
No, I haven't done that yet.
Well, there's at least 6 people on here now, probably currently on Zwift, and they may be able to advise you on it. I mean, it fits the nature of a certain kind of athlete. It's essentially a video game, if you're unaware.
Yeah.
So it passes the time.
Yeah, something like that. I was thinking about that. Now, you think the smart trainer is better compared to a roller, or what are y'all thoughts on smart trainer and just a stationary roller?
A not smart trainer will keep you more engaged if that's what you need. Because you have to control your power and your zones and where you're at. Mm-hmm. Obviously, a smart trainer, there's a lot of convenience in that. And then if you are using a platform that allows it, it can replicate, being on the road and climbing hills, and it can change your resistance and do things like that for you. So for some people that, is a good thing as well. I'll say no matter what you use, right? Like trying to stay engaged is an important thing. And so for me, like Netflix, podcasts, and audiobooks are my friend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but
I would think that someone that's close to you, Marco, is Jackie Jones, and I think he's on a, I guess you'd say a dumb trainer, but he's also on Zwift. So maybe after this week's session, you can join on because he's on most every day during our normal scheduled times.
Mhm.
And there's some other people like Toy, Nolan. I think he's kind of in the same boat. Toy's on here now. I don't know if he's listening.
Yeah, I have a smart trainer now, though. I'm no longer using the roller. I prefer the smart trainer for the simple fact I can find out where my power zones are, where I'm not overworking. Come up with a training plan through my Garmin that helps me maintain my endurance as well as my sprints and everything else that goes in with it.
Okay.
And like you said, with Zwift, by using Zwift, we have meetups and we actually can do our training together, or ride together, which makes it a whole lot easier for 2 hours, 3 hours. And when I have to do a 4-hour ride, I'm just in the garage and I'm watching movies all the time, pretty much, and just spin. Because when you're doing those long rides, you're not at a high wattage, so you're pretty low, and you can pretty much enjoy your ride as well as watch a good movie.
Yeah, I got to work on that discipline of staying on there longer.
You got anything to add, Toy? Well, so go ahead, Steve.
I was gonna say, Marco, man, what I usually do is I'll do, like, when I do my 3-hour rides, I'll find the longest movie that you could possibly find, something that just interests you, and go with it. And then, I don't know, Hulu or whatever, Netflix, that's what I do if I'm not doing schoolwork, and I'll listen to my schoolwork as well.
Yeah, and our sessions are 2 hours long, 6 days a week, but it's not out of the ordinary for someone to sign on an hour early or stay an hour late on the same platform. And again, I'd say that probably at least half the people that are on there on a regular basis each and every day, they're also using Zwift just to entertain themselves.
Yeah. I might tie a schnitzel or a bratwurst in front of me, keep me motivated.
Me personally, being logged in here with the Zoom group and having the conversations helps the time to go by fast. 2-3 hours goes by like it was nothing when we get talking.
Yeah.
Also, the Zwift, that it gives you that virtual environment. When you're using a smart trainer, it reacts the same way it does out on the road, but as far as changing gears and ease and difficulty and whatnot. And it's very beneficial, I think.
Yeah, most often they're banded together so that at least they, on that platform of Zwift, their avatar can be in the mix, just as long as you keep pedaling.
Just so a little bit input, I don't have anything to add. As long as you showed up and ride and have fun, good enough.
As long as you're not eating. I still want some steamed buns.
No, I'm watching my manly figure, sorry.
So I wanted to throw out there, change the subject a little bit about Huntsville. If there's anyone that's planning on going, and if that's the only races that they foresee that they're going to do in the calendar year, it would be more economical if you just got a day license with your USA Cycling. Otherwise, I'd impress upon the people that were going to do multiple races throughout the year, assuming that we're able to race, to go ahead and get their USA Cycling license. I think I've put that information out there before, but I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that I would pay a reimbursement to you up to $100 for that cost. There's some paperwork you'll need to fill out, and you'll need to email me so that I can get you that information. And I would prefer that we transact all this reimbursement in March, but I need the paperwork in February. So the month of February is just for you to get that information to me. And one of those things I'll be sending out is an electronic funds transfer form that you would complete along with a voided check so that those funds would be wired to your bank account. Another note, if you're racing in Huntsville and you only have, maybe you don't have a uniform or you only have one serviceable PVA uniform, I'd want to explore considering getting you a second one. But I would need to hear that from you this week because I'm going to put them on order now. That's about all I had at this point, Ralph.
Yeah. I have one last point before I'm going for dinner. Tomorrow we have a very, very interesting female athlete here. She is something like you can call a newcomer, and I would be very happy if we can hit tomorrow the 50. Today I think we have been about 45 or 48, and tomorrow with her it would be nice to hit the 50. So it's difficult to find very strong athletes, and she is ready to be a part of our camp tomorrow. So it would be nice if we can motivate a lot of other athletes to listen. Cool.
Yes.
Then
Yes.
I wish all of you a very nice day. I'm looking forward to see you tomorrow, and hopefully we will have a big group to share some interesting notes from a newcomer in hand cycling. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everyone.